What's up and welcome back to the channel. You are listening to Ninja Knight. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell up above for future uploads. Check out the links posted in the description down below to support the channel. Consider joining the channel today. Thank you. So here we have Transformers Tuesday, and I have to say I was really underwhelmed by this. Some of the recent live streams that have been done by Hasbro really do show what's going on inside of the company. It seems to be utter chaos at the moment. You have John Warden, who has just left the Transformers brand, and unfortunately now QC problems and problems in general with plastics to do with the Transformers has been at an all-time high in terms of problems. Look at what just happened with the HasLab Unicron. Bottom teeth of robot mode not painted silver, the mod end not painted correctly, and Hasbro are like, well, what do you want us to do about it? You have paid $500 plus, you have paid €500 plus, you have paid £500 plus for this item that's supposed to be a once in a lifetime item, and they have painted it incorrectly and they've just shrugged their shoulders and said, well, what do you want to do about it? This line is in big trouble in my opinion, and with the backlash that has been seen with relation to this, I'm not surprised that you're seeing the backlash that you're seeing with this line, and this is going to long continue. There's a couple of leakers that are out there that I'm probably going to discuss in another video, and some of the items that they have leaked for the next year or so, yeah, they sound great, but if the plastics are the same that we're being used to now on the likes of the Kingdom line, where it's brittle, it's fragile, there's a lot of problems to do with stress marks, there's a lot of problems to do with breakages that have been reported on different forums. Now I do understand that not an awful lot of people have loads of different breakages, but when you're looking at, say, the windshield problem with Studio Series Jazz, when you're looking at some of the problems that's going on with Beast Megatron, when you're looking at the problem that there's an actual breakable hinge on Cheetor, these are top tier characters supposedly within their own line and they can't get the QC together. The line, and in particular Hasbro, are in such disarray that John Warden has just left Transformers and it's already gone into disarray. They had to put John Warden, who was supposedly at the time supposed to be head of Ghostbusters more or less. Now, due to what's been going on over the last year, he has then been basically spread across other lines because Ghostbusters for Hasbro has come to an absolute halt, because I'm sure that they had a lot of product ready for that new movie and they just can't reveal it yet. Now, I did say beforehand, if I was a Ghostbusters fan, you'd want to be doing a slimed version of the characters, maybe to just tide people over, let them know that the line is still alive, it's still there. At the moment, it's more or less nearly a year out. It's gone on clearance in certain places because there's no sort of follow-up with it. Nobody cares. You're looking at the Power Rangers line that John Warden has been drafted in to basically run because it was so ineptly run. And now he's had to do the same thing with G.I. Joe, because G.I. Joe was left into the hands of people that had no clue what to do. And these are Hasbro's own brands, by the way. Now, Power Rangers is Hasbro's own brand, G.I. Joe is their own brand, and Transformers are their own brand, and they have been totally and utterly mismanaged. It's like the D-list team has been in charge of G.I. Joe and Power Rangers for the last year or so, and now it seems like the D-list team have moved from there over to Transformers. I can't believe what they've done here with Maximal Grimlock, and we're going to discuss this in this video. Now, that's not all negative within this video, there's going to be some positives to it, but ultimately and overall, I think a lot of complaints that are going to surround these characters are going to be, yeah, it's an awful lot of reuse, and we've pretty much seen this Mirage figure already, because this is more or less the Siege figure that's just been given an Earth mode. Now, I will say this, I think personally it was probably a clever idea from Hasbro to have sort of one mold for each character, have it look Cybertronian, and then rework the mold, or basically the skeleton of the mold, and say, okay, here's the Earth mode of it. There's not going to be too much difference between them, and there's going to be a lot of consistency where the likes of height is concerned. I'm very happy with that, and what I'll say is this, I actually think Mirage looks pretty good, and I think out of the set he's probably the better of the two, and I think what I've seen online, particularly a lot of people feel the same way, that they're like, yep, buy the set from Mirage, going to sell the Grimlock. And that's a sad state of affairs, because this is Maximal Grimlock. This is someone that a lot of people were keen to get, but they've absolutely botched what's gone on here. I can't believe that they've decided to do what they've done. Now, having a closer look at the characters here, the Dinobot mold was always going to be used for Grimlock, because in Beast Wars The Gathering, which is a comic, Maximal Grimlock is actually the original G1 Grimlock that is put into a new body, and he looks more or less like Dinobot, basically a larger version of it with a new head. I think that looks decent in the comics, but unfortunately it doesn't translate well over here to the plastic, because why? This is a very long, skinny, lanky, spindly version of Dinobot that they've decided to go with within this Kingdom line. It just doesn't fit Grimlock, and specifically when they've just released Studio Series Grimlock, who's a big, bulky bruiser. I think a lot of people are going to say to themselves, even ordinary people that might be buying this, like, this character's just been released and now he's gotten a downgrade to this very wildly unpainted looking figure. It looks quite strange. So as you can see, I think Mirage looks the better out of the two. I think the gun looks well. I think the tampos look well on the character. But this is where it really falls down for me now here with Grimlock. This is appalling. Now, I'm going to just be honest with people now. This is one of the worst sculpts I've seen of an alternate form in a very long time. That dinosaur head is absolutely despicable. Whoever sculpted that should really reconsider what they're doing in life, in particularly their job, because that is an awful design. Now, from what I can understand, particularly with Megatron, it seems like they were trying to copy off the Jurassic Park aesthetic or the look of Jurassic Park. They've nailed it with Megatron. Megatron in Dinosaur mode, and that dinosaur head looks incredible. This Raptor mode is horrific. The head is absolutely terrible. He's missing 2 front teeth here on the front, on the top of his mouth, and also on the bottom of his mouth, which looks absolutely horrific as well. Also, if I was a third party company, now I'm not saying they should do it, but you know what I mean, they should be looking into it now, doing a replacement head for this. That is the first thing that I would say. This head is absolutely terrible, it is. The second thing is these arms. These arms are ridiculous. How this got past a number of QC tests, and in particular people within Hasbro that looked at that and gave it the green check and said, yeah, that's okay, baffles me. How did someone say that that looked good? That is impossible. These look absolutely horrific. And again, like I said, a third party company should be licking their lips now at the moment and saying, that's easy, we'll swap that out and it'll be much better hands. Now I think with a new dinosaur head and a new alternate arm heads, I think that you're going to be looking at something definitely as a better product then overall. I think when you're looking at here and the lack of paint that you're saying, it's mostly a white mould, or if this is white paint that they're using that they've painted over grey, and this brown that they've decided to use in it, it's quite unusual given the fact that Grimlock has more or less a splattered kind of Dalmatian type of coloration, particularly within the comics. The way they've decided to go with this is quite a bizarre thing. It doesn't look good whatsoever. Whoever decided to make this paint scheme out needs to really reevaluate again what they're doing themselves, because they come down into these brown nasty looking legs and it just looks off. If this had been a whole white mould and it had some, say, like the black spots on it, I don't think it would have looked as bad. I think it would have looked passable and most people would have said, yeah, that looks alright. But the fact they've gone and mixed in browns, it just doesn't look good at all. It actually looks like a defective clone of Dinobot, to be honest with you. And I don't think that's where they had to be looking at, particularly when they're looking for like $49.99 or $59.99, whatever it is, for this set on Amazon and Hasbro Pulse. The one highlight that I have to say about this set, unfortunately, and that's how bad it is the box set itself. Because when you're looking at the box and you say to yourself, well, actually, do you know what? When you're looking at the paint scheme that's here, and this isn't reflected within the toy itself, then when you're seeing here that you have the dinosaur head is completely brown, and then the chest piece here is more or less brown, it actually does break it up nicely in that the white that is around it does look pretty good. And I have to say, the alternate head, particularly the robot mode head, I'm a big fan of. I think it looks really good and I think it's sculpted really well on the figure. This isn't green here either on the figure, that's actually painted white. You can see the claws here, the claws are white, and then you have the brown arms. That's not shown on the figure also. You just have a totally brown arm, which looks awful. And then it seems like there's some sort of white then going on, particularly at the bicep here, which actually looks somewhat good. But when you're looking at this figure here and you're saying to yourself, okay, that's a bad looking remold and it's definitely a bad looking repaint, and you come across here and say, yeah, that's another repaint. There's two highlights within this package, and this is the sad thing about this is the highlight comes over here. As we can see, Waspanider is in the background. Now, as you can see here, he has like 4 wings, which looks pretty interesting. And he also then seems to have like a very updated looking head, a very streamlined looking head, rather than the kind of bulgy, comical looking head that Waspanider had within the series. This actually looks like a pretty serious looking character, which I'm pretty happy with because I actually like Waspanider, and it would be interesting to see if it linked in with, say, Transformers Animated, where he was a pretty serious character and someone to actually fear. I thought that was always an interesting idea. So that's Waspanider. That seems to be our first look at Waspanider, because these figures are very much so based off on the art, or vice versa. The art is very much so based off of the figures, as we can see. You have the dinosaur head poking out here, and then the false head then on the chest. I think that this is a terrible design. I really do. Given the fact that we've already had a masterpiece Dinobot, and Hasbro don't have to worry about, well, we're offsetting costs here about you not buying the masterpiece, or maybe it'd be preferable about buying the masterpiece. The decision to do what they've done here is baffling to me, and as a design choice, someone needs to be looking at this. I hope in a year or two's time, maybe even further down the line, they might redo Dinobot again, because this, as my favourite character, particularly in Beast Wars, it just isn't good enough in my opinion. On the right hand side here, we can see a wing. Now what's interesting about the post that they made was they talked about Maximals, and they said Maximals are going to be fighting against other characters, against Decepticons and Predacons, and this seemed to be a Maximal based line. So it seems to me that there's either going to be 2 or 3 packs, maybe 4 perhaps, that are just going to be Maximals and Autobots. It doesn't seem like there's going to be a Decepticon and Predacon pack. Could be wrong on that now. They could eventually then bring one out. It seems like this line is in flux quite often. Like, look at, say for example, the promotional art. They had a crocodile fossilizer. There's no word on that at the moment. They had Polar Claw that was in there. There's no word on him at the moment. And then there's 1 or 2 other characters that are in there that look completely different. So it does look like this is in flux. What's interesting about this wing is this seems to be the wingtip of what was originally called Silverbolt and part of Magnaboss, if people remember that, which was a combiner of a bald eagle, an elephant and a lion. So that was the original Silverbolt, supposedly, the original Prowl and the original Ironhide that were supposed to combine together to make the character Magnaboss. What's interesting about this is now this is possibly going to be a retool of Air Razor. I'm very curious to see if this is the part of Magnaboss that I think it is, which is Silverbolt, or aka Skywarp. It seems like they've changed the name to Skywarp to avoid confusion, particularly if they're going to re-release a G1 version of Silverbolt, which I think will come if they decide to do the Combiner Wars again, more or less, because it seems like they're going to do Dinosaur again, and they're going to have a Commander class Motormaster, which would be very interesting. But I also think what's interesting about this is they've decided to take the name Silverbolt away from this character and give it Skywarp. Now that happened in the Beast Wars animated series that came out in Japan. I think that's quite interesting. What I think would be interesting about this is they've obviously shown within Hasbro, particularly with the fossilizer figures, is that they've introduced a combiner port and certainly a combiner head. So I'm wondering now, if they were thinking about doing that with fossilizers, are they going to think about doing this now with Skywarp? Are they going to release Ironhide in the line as an elephant, and are they going to release Prowl in the line as a lion, and are they going to combine? Now there was talk that it could have been the Commander class figure for either next year or sometime within this year, or maybe even a year after that, that they were going to introduce a Commander class Magnaboss, which I'd be all over. And if they decided to do then the opposite of that, the Commander class Tripedicus, and I think that that would have been absolutely fantastic also. If they do the 3 figures in the line and they do combine together, I'd be very happy with that. And I have to say, that's where we're at now at the moment, where a possible repaint retail and an all-new Waspanader is the most exciting thing that's come out of Transformers now over the last couple of weeks. We've known about the Ark for a long time. We've known about an awful lot of the other characters for a long time. So for this pack to come out, which again we've known for quite some time also, and some people might say, well, the leakers are out there and this would have been a surprise other than that, months in advance, and then when these figures eventually get